So, shall we start the session, sir? Durai, sir?
Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Sri Krishna College of Engineering and Technology, I welcome our today's resource person, Dr. P.M. Thurairaj Vincent, sir, and all the professors and participants for this session. We are conducting AICT ATAL-sponsored one-week FDP on deep learning for visual computing. Today is third day, seventh session. The title is on impact of deep learning in this world of AI. Our resource person is Dr. P.M. Thurairaj Vincent. He is working as associate professor in VIT Velu. I welcome you, sir. He has 13 years of experience, out of which 6 years after his PhD. And he was also working as HOD in MTech Computer Science and Engineering and Department of Digital Communication during the period of 2016 to 2018. And now he's working as associate professor in VIT Velu. He completed his PhD degree in the year of 2015 in the title of Novel, Time Efficient and Secure Cryptographic Approach for Electronic Business Applications. He has a very good publications, more than 23 SA indexed impact factor journals he has published papers in it, and 31 Scopus indexed journals and 16 Scopus indexed conference. So totally he has published nearly 70 Scopus and SA journals. And Web of Science journals also nearly 30 papers he has published. To add credits to his values, he has produced 2 PhD scholars and currently he is currently guiding 6 students. And MTech research also 3 scholars completed and 1 student he is guiding on it. And 4 patents he has published, and also he has published a book chapter in Taylor and Francis and also in Elsevier. He has done it. He has readily accepted our invitation. He has accepted to be session resource person for this session. He has also given many keynote speeches in reputed conferences and a resource person for many FDPs and BOS member for SRM Institute of Science and Technology. He is continuously working in research, and he has got research award continuously for 5 years from 2015. I once again welcome you, sir, for our session. I welcome the participants also. Welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this FDP, Kavita ma'am and Venkal Lakshmi ma'am, for inviting me to give a session on impact of deep learning in the world of AI. So at the same time, I would like to thank all the organizers of SKCET for arranging a wonderful session on deep learning by covering various important concepts of deep learning for the benefit of the faculty community as well as the research fraternity. So also I'd like to thank all the participants for spending their valuable time during the important academics period. So I would like to thank all who involved in this. Let me start my presentation. So the topic I'm going to cover today is impact of deep learning in the world of AI. So you have been discussing about various deep learning related topics in all these sessions, like convolution neural networks or GAN or RAN, RN, and so many related deep learning concepts you have been attending in other sessions. So this particular session, I just want to cover in our day-to-day life, what are all the impacts we are having with respect to deep learning approaches. So what are all the benefits we are having in our day-to-day life, and what are all the things which are going to come up, which is going to make changes in our life, and all those things we are going to discuss in today's session. So artificial intelligence, so everything comes under a single umbrella called artificial intelligence, and I just want to give a brief introduction about artificial intelligence and machine learning and how deep learning is derived from that, and what is the major difference between ML and DL. So all those basics I will touch upon, and I will go to the core discussion what we are going to have as far as today's topic is concerned. So artificial intelligence, it can be defined in many ways. So some of the well-known definitions, if you take, it is given as it is an intelligence demonstrated by machines as opposed to the natural intelligence what we human being used to display. So this is something which is demonstrated by machines, but most importantly, this demonstration is performed by the human being. So definitely, it could not match the intelligence of 100%, but we have the other advantages also. So as far as the kind of intelligence it performs with respect to the machines, what it could be capable of handling it, but on the other side, the amount of data it could handle when compared to the human being is something enormous. So that is what the kind of benefit we will be getting from the machine. So as far as the intelligence is concerned, so we could not match the human intelligence. So some other definition says that a machine which would try to mimic cognitive functions that human associate with the human mind, such as learning and problem solving. So how basically a human being learns and how basically a problem is being solved by a human intelligence. In the similar way, we are training a system to mimic all those functions, and it will try to solve it. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, basically two different types of approaches artificial intelligence deals with. One is a traditional one like logic and rule-based approach, where we will be writing set of rules to solve a particular problem. So we would be calling it as a logical rule also, like if this is satisfied, if this is not satisfied, like that. So we may be writing a rule for that. It will be something like a top-down number of rules. So based on so many number of rules, we will be able to solve a particular problem. So here the role of computer is to reason about all those rules, and so such kind of small scale system which can be used to automate processes. So that's how one kind of artificial intelligence works, whereas the other kind of artificial intelligence, if you look at it, we have the machine learning. So machine learning is something it is a buzzing word in recent times, especially after 2015. So we have been discussing about machine learning on various aspects. So because we have plenty of usage of machine learning across all the domains, so we have been talking about machine learning, and machine learning from that we have deep learning. So many learnings, we have federated learning, we have transfer learning, so many terms are coined. So as far as the computer science discipline is concerned, so we are totally now moved towards this particular direction, because plenty of things that needs to be solved with the help of this. And if you look at our future for another 10-15 years, so we are in a position to solve many of the upcoming problems. Many of the upcoming innovative things are coming up that needs to be handled with the help of AI or machine learning or deep learning or any of the allied topics we are talking with respect to that. So that is how the future trend is going to be. So in a simplest form, we can define machine learning as learn from data and improve over time. So in a simplest way, we will be able to define this machine learning. So I feel before we look into deep learning, we should have a basic idea about what is machine learning. Machine learning is not something very new. Only we are using it now. it was coined sometime before by Arthur Samuel, 1959 itself. I don't know, any of us are born at that particular time. So he was in a position to beat a computer in a game called checkers, but he was unable to beat the computer. So he got an idea that why we can try it from the computer itself. So he wrote a piece of program that would observe all the steps performed by the computer. Based on that, he was unable to beat the computer. So later he made the piece of code to play on his behalf. So that's how he was able to beat the computer. So that's how the term machine learning has evolved. So that's what it is given, or it was defined by Arthur Samuel. So if you look at Tom Mitchell had a larger role as far as machine learning is concerned. So he defined in a different way with the two terms like task, performance, and experience. So always we will be assigning a task for our machine, and always we will be looking for or validating the performance with respect to the task, how many percentage is achieved. So here it is unlike the traditional programming. So traditional programming always expected to give 100% result. So it is not about that. So the accuracy of result varies from anything from 51 to 99. So 100% will be the very rarest case. So in that particular case, we will be always looking for the performance measure, that how good the particular task is being performed. So based on the deviation, so we will be always giving an experience to that particular system. So over the period of time, by gaining lot of experience, the system will be expected to perform much better. So that's how Tom Mitchell has defined machine learning. So here learning happens, a continuous learning. So like us, always we are supposed to learn newer things. So in the similar way, so machine learning also performs. Yeah, simplest example always we would consider for understanding how exactly machine learning works is spam filtering. From the Tom Mitchell's perspective itself, the task is to identify the spam mail, whereas always we need to measure the performance, whether all the spam mails are correctly categorized as spam mail or some kind of false positives or true negatives. All those things we have to identify. So what is the experience here is when a spam mail was wrongly classified as a spam mail, or when a spam mail is not properly classified, so we will give a kind of experience for that particular system by tagging that particular mail, and we would say that this is a spam mail. So that is what the kind of experience we will be giving it for that particular system. So this is how basically machine learning works. So always everyone will get this particular question, that why this particular thing is very trending now, why everyone is working on that. So even that it was there in 1959, even though all those algorithms what we are talking about machine learning was present much earlier in 80s, 90s, it was there. But why it is so popular now? So it is something we have set of things which will be explaining. First one is the flood of availability of data. So now we have the plenty of data. Data is being generated. We could not be in a position to even quantify. We could not be even in a position to measure. So we are in a position to introduce newer terms like petabytes, zettabytes, so many newer terms we are coming out. So that much enormous data is being generated. So when there is going to be a paradigm shift from 4th generation to 5th generation, which is going to happen maybe in this year or upcoming year. So we will be having, we are going to have a transition of internet of people to internet of everything. So even we would calling us the internet of things. So even we are going to have internet connectivity, we are going to give it even for things. It is so far it is there only for the people. So a lot of transition is going to happen, which is even further going to generate so much of data that actually is being properly analyzed and is being properly utilized for all kind of futuristic things. So whatever we are enjoying today with our smartphones or any other applications that we are using, so all these are result of that. So second important reason is increasing computational power. So we have enormous computational power now. So earlier days, those facilities were available remotely. So now only even in a laptop, we can have a GPU computing facility, and the price is also relatively reasonable. So earlier days, maybe lakhs and lakhs of amount needs to be invested for high computing facility. Now we need not spend that much. So I'm not saying that it is cheap or something like. Comparatively, it's very less when compared to the previous year. So even we have the computing facility available even in our mobile phones and on handheld system itself. We will be able to do all these computational things. So that is what another one important reason why it is very popular now. And third thing is growing progress in available algorithms and theory developed by researchers. So if you look at any particular algorithm, all are very old algorithms. But what is something very good about those algorithms is even today's requirement, these algorithms are supporting. So we will be in a position to do a lot of optimization. So we can go for hybridization, or we can go for some ensemble kind of learning. So many ways we can utilize these algorithms for our today's requirements. So that is something again a support. So it is not like something which is coming all of a sudden and all the researchers are putting their head that how a new algorithm we are going to develop for this. All those difficulties are not there. So flood of availability of data is available now. We have the increased computational power. At the same time, we have the support of all the traditional algorithms which are working even today in a much better way. And not least, the increasing support from industry. So all the technological giants are investing in billions of money for machine learning or deep learning or artificial intelligence or data science, any word we would coin with respect to this particular word. So we will be able to realize that how important it is going to be. If you look at the companies who are investing, if you look at worldwide, you will be able to see that Google, Facebook, if India, if you see Reliance and all those giants are investing billions of money, and they are also a reason why we are much into all these kind of steps. So now we will quickly move to the point of discussion, what we are going to have as far as the today's session, that is deep learning. So deep learning, as we all know, that it is a subfield of machine learning, which is derived from machine learning, and deep learning has nothing to do without machine learning, because it is not something entirely newer thing. It is actually derived from machine learning because the way it functions when compared to the machine learning. So I just want to give a brief comparison between these two approaches so that we can go for all the kind of impacts deep learning makes in our day-to-day life. So various applications across all the domains, whatever the possible length and breadth I would be able to cover. So I have covered many of the topics just to create some interest, because 1.5 hours will be spent by you, may create some kind of interest towards some application that you will be able to work for your future research or future projects, whatever it may be from your end. So how this works is, it works in terms of layers to create an artificial neural network. So we would be calling it as ANN, because more than the full form, these short forms are very popular as far as deep learning is concerned. So that can learn and make intelligent decisions on its own. Yes, absolutely, as same as what we have seen in machine learning. It has the ability to perform some complex tasks. So that is where deep learning is coming out from machine learning, and it is also coming out to be one of the very prominent field where we have application across various domains. So basically, it is able to perform some complex tasks where the requirement comes where we need to perform. So especially the multimedia file. So if you are going to have images or videos or something like that, so where we will be seeing that a huge amount of data will be there. So when we are in a position to analyze those complex data, which consists of huge amount of data in the form of multimedia files, so there comes the need for deep learning, where we will not be able to solve it with the human being. Machine learning itself will be able to solve it, but deep learning is in another form, in an advanced form. So deep learning models are basically introduced to an extremely sophisticated approach to machine learning. It actually complements machine learning and are set to tackle these challenges because they have been specifically modeled after the human brain. So again, I need not explain the nuances because you have been attending this session from Monday. So I don't want to touch upon those things. So complex, multi-layered, deep neural networks are built to allow data to be passed between nodes. Normally we used to call it computing, but basically it is actually derived from the concept of neurons, how human brains are working in a connected base. So this result is going to be a kind of non-linear transformation of the data that is increasingly abstract towards the output layer. So while it takes tremendous volumes of data to feed and build a system, it can begin to generate immediate results, and there is relatively little need for human intervention once the programs are in place. So always we know that even if you look at a backpropagation algorithm, it will start giving the results, but we will be in a position to do a lot of optimization because we need to match the result towards our target. Whatever result comes, we will not take it as it is. We will do a lot of trial and error kind of updations in terms of weights and all other inputs that are corresponds to a particular network, and we will try to match the target whatever we are supposed to match. But most important factor here is no human intervention is required at all when it comes to the deep neural networks, which consist of so many number of layers. So on the other side, we cannot go and see what is happening between these layers. Also, intervention need not be required. At the same time, it need not be possible also. So that is something about the other side of neural networks. So when it comes to neural networks or deep neural networks, CNN is something very, very famous, especially in handling these kind of large amount of data and all those things. So basically it was designed for working with the images. So the convolution in the title is the process that applies a weight-based filter across every element of an image. In a simplistic term, we can understand that it will be able to divide in terms of single pixel to know the nuances of each and every image. So it will help the computer to understand and react to elements within the picture itself. So that much deep we will be able to get into even a small picture, and we will be able to analyze things. So the other popular thing is a recurrent neural network, so which is actually addressing one of the key issue in machine learning, that which will not be able to keep the memory of all the previous outcomes and all those things. So by considering that factor, recurrent neural networks were introduced, so which was very much helpful in solving some of the problems which are supposed to have all the previous memory with respect to the data points and results which were taken. So this particular thing, for example, recurrent neural networks are very much useful in handling some of the key applications which corresponds to natural language processing. So we will discuss those applications in detail. So like with the human, the computer will do a better job of understanding a section of text if it has the access to a tone and content that came before it. For example, the driving directions can be more accurate if the computer remembers that everyone following a recommended route on a Saturday night that takes twice as long to get where they are going. So in Western countries, so we can very much relate to those things that always it is something like a formula kind of things that, so here in India it will take a lot of time to implement and all those things, but still we have the navigation support and all those things. But in a very simplistic example, we can relate to that. So if there is a memory for the processor that present in a computer, in a car, then without any particular intervention from the driver or the passenger to go to a particular place, because already there was a saved route and to reach a particular destination. So basically the comparison between machine learning and deep learning, even though deep learning is derived from machine learning, or we could even call deep learning is a subfield of machine learning. So there is a thin line between those two techniques, so that we can have a clear understanding about that. So machine learning basically requires more human intervention when it comes to get the results, whereas deep learning is more complex in terms of setting up that, because it requires a lot of computational power, it requires a huge memory it will take, and all those complexities are there. But with respect to human intervention, it does not require that much when compared to machine learning. So machine learning programs tend to be very less complex, because we will not be able to basically use it for complex problems itself. So that's how we can take it another way also. But deep learning algorithms, if it runs on a conventional computers, then it will not be possible to execute any of those things, because conventional computers are with a lower configuration systems will support mostly machine learning based programs or algorithms, but deep learning algorithms will require more powerful hardware and resources for a proper execution. It may take days of time for execution also, but such kind of systems may not work. So if you are doing it for a research purpose, I can wait for a result for 2-3 days, it's fine. But if I am going for some kind of real-time systems, I cannot even wait for a minute. So there is a big difference between these two things. So machine learning systems can be set up and operate quickly, but may be limited in the power of their results, whereas deep learning systems takes more time, because obviously we are looking for such kind of solution only, so which will take time. But sometimes when we train a particular system in a very proper way with a proper hardware support, if you are going to have, we can get the results instantaneously. So machine learning again, which requires structured data and uses traditional algorithms like regression or all those things, whereas deep learning algorithms employs neural network based approaches which accommodate basically large volume of unstructured data. So that is also yes, unstructured data also can be processed with machine learning, but there will be some kind of limitations. So machine learning is there already, so spam filtering, it's there in the inboxes. In banking related sectors, we have in the doctor's clinic for doing some small kind of task and all those things, we have the machine learning. Whereas deep learning is basically looking for solving some of the complex things like autonomous programs or self-driving cars, or on robots that perform advanced surgery. So some of the complex applications basically involves deep learning algorithms. So that is what the kind of comparison between those two. So some of the impacts, as I have told at the beginning, that I just want to cover many domains wherein which we will be having impacts of deep learning, starting from our mobile phones to a complex self-driving car, so everywhere. So I'll just touch upon only the application of deep learning in those aspects. So I'm not going to explain everything in detail, but basically we will be touching upon those things. It is like self-driving cars or natural language processing, or in the field of healthcare, or it is going to be about language translations, or it is about colorization of black and white images. So we are going to discuss some different domains where we can see the application of deep learning, so which may be very interesting to know about the aspects of all those things. So when it is being considered, so most of the applications are evolved very recently, or which is going to be the future. So in that particular way only I have taken, so that if any interest is being created on any of the topics, so there will be a scope for working on those particular domains. So self-driving car, yes, in the field of automobile, it is going to be a game changer, because autonomous cars are already developed by Google and it is in usage, but it is in a very limited scope so far it had. But there is a prediction that by 2030, there will be so many autonomous cars will be available on our roads. Which is going to be completely changed. So already there is a transition happening from the traditional engine to electric vehicles. So we are going to basically replace the engine itself by introducing electrical power to our cars. So that is a kind of transition has already started. So this is to the another level, because basically the power requirement here is not only for the engine but for everything. So we are supposed to keep a memory unit, we are supposed to keep a processor, we are supposed to keep so many cameras, sensors. So everything requires electric power to work with. So it is not going to be that easy, but it is in the developmental stages. So it may take a lot of time, maybe 5 to 10 years time to be a practical one, but there is a possibility that we would be in a position to achieve that. So what kind of applications we are going to have with respect to deep learning as far as the self-driving cars are concerned? So that is what first we are going to discuss as one of the impact of deep learning. So driverless cars can identify objects, interpret situations, and make decisions based on object detection and object classification algorithms. So they do this by detecting objects, classifying them, and interpreting what they are. So that is how we will be in a position to handle this particular scenario. So that is how the self-driving car basically works with respect to this particular scenario. So the three major sensors that we are going to have as far as the self-driving cars are concerned are going to be the cameras, radar, and lidar. So the three major sensors, so which is going to be placed in a self-driving car, and all the inputs from the three different sensors are going to be handled by the deep learning approaches. So it is actually going to process these inputs, and the processor is going to work based on the inputs provided by the deep learning approaches. So what is the purpose of this is about to identify the location, speed, 3D shapes of the objects which are around the particular car, and all those things are going to be analyzed with these particular sensors. So these radar detectors basically augment the efforts of camera sensors at night or whenever the visibility is poor. So that is what the particular purpose of that. It used to send pulses of radio waves to locate an object and send back signals about the speed and location of the particular object. So that is the purpose of that. So cameras, we all know a 360-degree camera is required to detect everything, but definitely cameras are having its own drawback, that low light picturization may not be that much accurate when we have a daylight. So lidar sensors calculate the distance through pulse laser by empowering driverless cars with 3D visuals of their surroundings, adding richer information about the shape and depth. So it may be the object may be a paper. For paper and all, a car need not be stopped or need not be reduce its speed or something like that. So definitely some kind of estimation is perfectly required as far as these kind of sensors are concerned. So all these are possible with the help of a deep learning approach. So that's what it has given us. AI-powered vehicles see the physical world, but how they are able to identify things like street signs, other cars, road markings, and many other things encountered on the road. So what actually basically required here is the data annotation. So after taking a picture, so how fastly we will be able to annotate that it is a paper, it is a small obstacle, it is a stone, or it is something, a sign, road sign, or it is about a signal. So all those classification that needs to be done on a real-time basis. So there we cannot have any kind of excuses like, no, this is a neural network algorithm, so you are providing a complex input data. Definitely it will take its own time to respond. So those kind of excuses will not work at all. So in real time, so if somebody comes, then the brake needs to be applied on real time. Like how quickly a human being responds, in the same way the system also should respond. So that much precision is something very well required for that. So as we all know that there will be a lot of training data which is to be fed into that particular system, deep learning based system, so where in which we will be trained the model to properly annotate, especially with respect to all kind of inputs it is going to receive. And apart from that, if anything comes again, that also that needs to be very well handled, because it has to repeat all the efforts put by the human being and beyond that also. For example, a human being sees that the speed of the car should be limited to 20 kilometers per hour, means it will be a very big question mark that how many of them will maintain that. It may be they may go in 25, someone may go in 60, 70 also in that particular road. But as far as this particular system is concerned, so it is going to be something very, very big, what is a kind of advantage as far as the traffic rules are concerned, because this system will maintain 100% very strictly. So that is what the kind of benefit we are going to get it from that, and we are very hopeful that there will not be any accidents also. Basically, human beings are making at the road, which may get eliminated. So if this is going to be successfully implemented. So this is some of the examples that I got from some of the projects. Yeah, minimal level projects, they have worked with the deep learning based approaches on detecting the lane will be there with respect to 2 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, many lanes may be there. So the kind of segmentation, some kind of deep learning based networks developed like lane net or UNet or 3D lane net. So such kind of systems were developed for obstacle detection. So what are all the obstacles are there, or traffic signs, or light detection, or road markings. So for observing all those things, and another deep learning based models were developed like YOLO, SSD, or RetinaNet. So those are all already developed. And for distance estimation, so for example, between a car or between a vehicle or between the obstacle and with respect to the car and all those kind of estimations. So there are other algorithms which are available like 3D estimation and all those things. So these are all the application of deep learning. So with respect to the sensor fusion, it may be the LiDAR fusion or LiDAR stereo camera fusion or radar camera fusion. So all those things, so we will be able to again have handle with the help of deep learning based approaches, with the help of CNN or CSPN or SIFRnet. So many customized networks are developed for all these purposes. So when time comes, we will be able to see that what are all the kind of advancements we are going to see as far as these approaches are concerned. So the next application what we are going to discuss with respect to the deep learning is natural language processing. So already we have discussed about natural language processing, as RNN will be capable of handling some of the natural language processing based tasks. So let us understand again what is natural language processing. So I cannot take every audience to take it granted that everyone knows about that. So let me introduce about that. It is the ability of a system to understand and process human languages. So it is as simple as that. Whatever it may be the language, so we have hundreds of languages are being spoken across the world. So this particular system will be in a position to understand the languages. So what is the basic things? Basically, a computer could understand only a language of zeros or one only, but still we are about to make the computers to understand human languages like Tamil or English or any particular language. So natural language processing has seen large scale adoption in recent time because of the level of user friendliness it brings to the table. So that is how we will be able to understand how important it is. For example, from choosing your choice of music to controlling your electronic appliances, controlling air conditioners, ovens, even ceiling fans, light bulbs, everything can be controlled with the voice commands and all those things. So because we have that much sophistication, so definitely we will be able to understand that processing our voice is very important to have control over all these devices. So this is only possible because of natural language processing. So this is how natural language processing works, like morphological analytics based tokenizations, then syntactic analysis of tagging of already existing things, and word sense disambiguation as part of semantic analysis, and reference resolution as far as discourse analysis, and finally there is a pragmatic analysis which will be able to identify the sarcasm. So what basically happens as far as morphological analysis is to identify the words and the sentences. So whatever the word is being spoken or whatever it may be, the input which is given here, so it has to be properly tokenized with the existing. So many different machine learning or deep learning based algorithms have been employed for tokenization, including recurrent neural networks. So as we have discussed, so recurrent neural network has a lot to do with the natural language processing is concerned. So the next process after this tokenization is to check whether the given sentence follows the grammar rule of the language. So that is something very, very difficult to handle, because most of the spoken languages are not exactly matching the grammar. So I can say that you people are listening, so there is no grammar at all in it, whereas we will be able to see that I can speak and everyone can understand. So that much, even in language Tamil, so grammar goes in one way, whereas a different region of people talks in different way. So that is something, a very big lag with respect to that. Yes, there is a scope of improvement for that. Still, somehow it has to handle this to certain extent. So that is another important thing with respect to this, because in the exact grammar, nobody will speak in real time. So after the thing, so we will be in a position to tag the words and their part of speech, so which will help the syntactic parsers in checking the grammar rules. So after that, the word sense disambiguation is again a case of consideration, because if you take a word bank, it may be reference to a blood bank or a financial bank or a river bank or a shore. Like that, one word can be used with very many different conditions, or which maybe refers to different scenarios also. So that kind of ambiguity that needs to be properly handled as far as that particular concern is there. So again, recurrent neural network which belongs to deep learning, or else the long short-term memory LSTM based recurrent neural network, or gated recurrent unit based recurrent neural network, All these are researched and have produced very good results as far as this particular process is concerned. So natural language processing, which are applied in different contexts. For example, sentiment analysis. So there are so many feedbacks about a newly released movie, or a newly launched car, or newly released iPhone, or a Samsung phone, or whatever it may be. The product we are going to talk about. So what kind by knowing what is the feedback of the people, because many people nowadays giving sarcastic comments like after watching a movie, what a movie. So if there is a comment, it may goes in both the ways. The movie may be very good, or sometimes movie may be very bad. So for both the scenarios, such kind of feedbacks will come. So those kind of things are coming under sentiment analysis. Chatbot systems. So nowadays we have chatbot systems everywhere. So if you want to chat with anyone, even they are saying that we are available in your WhatsApp. So when we enthusiastically chat with the WhatsApp, so most of the things are chatbots only. So already recorded information will be shared based on our input, and beyond certain things they will connect to a human assistant. So such kind of things are possible because we have a proper system which will be able to address this. So question answering systems also, in many cases we will be able to get some kind of automated response corresponds to a particular question. So in such cases also very well handled with the kind of things. And beyond that, machine translation or information retrieval systems. So all these things requires natural language processing that needs to be handled in a very appropriate way. So what exactly the role of deep learning in this natural language processing is, as far as the inputs that are concerned. So we have to automate the process. Automatically image caption that needs to be generated. So a particular image is there. If you want to show some kind of caption, then it is about a scenery, it is about a building, it is about a home. So such kind of automatically when we are able to create. So automatic translation of text. Yes, we are seeing even many from Google to everything. When we speak, it will be converted into text and it will be fed as an input to the particular system. So all these kind of things are very much processed with the help of natural language processing techniques, with the help of deep learning based approaches. So automatic text classification. So automatically when we are able to classify the text during the process of natural language processing, that is another important step as far as this particular process is concerned. So immediately when we look into another important application of deep learning is virtual assistant. So virtual assistants, basically personal assistants will be there for some VIPs, some important personalities. They will be having their own personal assistants. So now everyone become VIP because we have our own virtual assistants which are available for help us in many aspects. So there is a kind of prediction from CAGR that this particular domain of virtual assistant will grow with 34% of in a rate of speed at which it will grow. Because already it has generated a market size of 3.7 billion US dollar. So all those topics what we are already discussed, or we are going to discuss, are having already lot of impacts. Certain things we may think like what is so great about that, but still everything has its own market, and everything has its own application. So as far as the virtual assistants are concerned, which is very popular application of deep learning. So we use virtual assistants like Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistant for our day-to-day life requirements. It will help us to certain extents to give reminders, give routes, order foods, and so many things. It will play songs, many things it will be able to do. So conversational interactions facilitated by digital assistants and high quality voice user interfaces are said to be the real game changer in the coming years. So right now we don't have high quality voice user interfaces. So we have a very limited input scope as far as this particular voice user interfaces are concerned, because we don't have everyone cannot afford an iPhone or something like that. But later when we are going to have quality improvement of this particular interface, so we are going to have so many automatic speech recognition advancements we will be having. A great demand of voice search will lead to smart speakers in and in-car system to go in hand with the IVS. So that much we are going to have improvements as far as the virtual assistants are concerned. So furthermore, that this virtual voice assistants are very much helpful for the field of education also. So especially with the students with different abilities and all those things, and in a scenario where most of the teaching learning sessions are happening through online, so this particular assistance will be very much or much more helpful than the traditional way. So in that particular aspect, IBM Watson has come up with a deep learning based accelerator solution for the field of education, which is developed in the name of DeepSen, which is about to produce a human-like speech. So when you will be in a position to give the input, so it will interact with the other side like a human being. So such kind of voice technology can help the students with spelling and practice of timetables, teaching them with AI and the world of future. So which will be much more convenient for the interaction with the students, because basically human being will not have that much tolerance to go that much patiently or whatever the way which will be much convenient for the kids to learn. So next come the entertainment industry. So entertainment industry also highly benefited from the field of machine learning or deep learning. One such example is in 2018 when Wimbledon was happened. So IBM Watson has analyzed the player emotions and expressions through hundreds of hours of footage to auto-generate highlights for telecast. So as we know that in a tennis game or any particular game, anything that happens with some kind of excitement or some kind of frustration, then it would come out as an emotion or expression in the face of the player. So based on that, they were able to generate the highlights. If the entire session, if you consider from first game till the last game, there will be hundreds and hundreds of hours of video footage will be there. So from that, selecting some piece of information which may be 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour, it will be very, very difficult, and it will involve huge amount of manpower and most importantly the time. So all those things, it will not be possible to invest, and it will not be possible to spend also. Maybe after the particular match. So if you want some key things, then if there is an automated tool, then it will be much better to generate it. So even with so much of data, a model is being generated. So even for the film industry also, they are releasing so many things, teaser, trailer, so many things are being used for the promotion of a particular movie or the promotion of a particular serial or something like that. So all those things are very much possible with that. So apart from that, the streaming platform like Netflix or Amazon Prime are enhancing their deep learning capabilities to provide a personalized experience to its users. By knowing their interest and by knowing their preferences, time of access, history, by considering so much of information about the users, they will be giving appropriate recommendations. So this particular recommendation will come on time, wherein which a particular user will be relaxed to see something. So that is something, a beauty of such recommendation. So these deep video analysis basically save hours of manual effort required for audio or video sync, and its testing, transcription, and tagging. So all these time will be saved as far as this particular thing is concerned. As well as we will be looking for a revolutionizing the filmmaking processes. Cameras learn to study human body language to imbibe in virtual characters. So that is also something which is coming up. We are going to experience in future that this particular filmmaking process are going to see a revolution in terms of this. So next kind of deep learning application is visual recognition. So visual recognition is something again very interesting, because it may be sometimes very lethargic sometimes. For example, Facebook, I am going to upload a picture of mine with my friends or my family. Facebook can come out and say that this is so and so person, which may not be much enthusiastic beyond some experience. For first 2-3 times, and you get enthusiastic, oh, my system automatically finds a person and all those things. But when it comes to solving a crime, when it comes to the other kind of application, so this will be very interesting as far as this particular recognition process itself. So here something more also we will be able to do it. For example, we have very old pictures what we found from our maybe laptop or something, or mobile or something like that. So wherein which we may not be able to see much information about that. So that we would be calling as a metadata. So data corresponds to each picture may not be present there. So in such cases, so this kind of deep learning algorithms will be much helpful in giving more details about each photograph. For example, who is there, whose faces are there, who are the combination of people who are available in other photos from other dates or other locations, with respect to which event this particular photo was taken, what was the date, location. So all those information deep learning is able to fetch from a particular images or concept. So definitely which will give more enthusiasm towards seeing a very old picture or something like that. So again, the visual recognition has, as I told, the other views also, like searching for a particular photo from a library. If you see a Google's picture library, which requires state-of-the-art visual recognition system consisting of several layers from basics to advanced to recognize these elements. So that will be something, a very complex thing that one needs to perform on this particular task, visual recognition. So large-scale image visual recognition through deep neural networks is boosting growth in the segment of digital media management by using convolution neural networks, TensorFlow, and Python extensively. So such kind of recognition and matching and creating similar images and all those things are able to solve so many law and order related issues, or about a famous personality. So much information. So somebody on a overnight, someone become very famous. So if you want to know the past of a particular person, some interesting information about the particular person, if you want to create identify. So for all those purposes, we will be able to use these kind of things. So fraud detection is another place where we will be able to apply deep learning based approaches, especially in the banking and financial sector. So it faces, there may be hundreds or thousands or lakhs of genuine transaction also. Nobody will come out and say that today I did a financial transaction, it went very successful, I am very happy. Nobody will come out and say, because that is how it is supposed to function. But if anything goes wrong, then it will be something beyond the imagination, because the loss for the particular person will make the particular person to feel very bad, and wherever the person go out will share that X bank I lost this much, Y bank there was a miss transaction. So all those things will be shared. Even newspapers, magazines will show that particular news. So it will create a bad name for the particular bank or for a particular financial sector. So they are supposed to involve some advanced algorithms to identify and detect the frauds, because they have only the information with respect to the previous frauds. But another important thing is any kind of transaction which not match with the previous transaction. For example, knowingly or unknowingly, every customer follows a pattern. So anything that crosses that particular pattern, it has to identify. So again, it has to put one more authentication or one more cross checking, or there will be a block of credit card, there will be a block of the particular internet banking facility for 24 hours. So some kind of action should be taken by these particular systems automatically. So that is how this particular application will be using the deep learning based approaches for addressing this particular problem. For example, auto encoders in Keras and TensorFlow are being developed to detect exclusively for credit card frauds, for saving billions of dollars of cost in recovery and insurance for financial institutions. So such kind of efforts are actually benefiting the customers also. It is actually benefiting the banks also, that over a period of time they will be able to create some kind of genuine name for the particular financial institution. So basically classification and regression based machine learning techniques are being used, but neural networks, when it started coming out, all those traditional approaches are replaced by neural network based model for handling this particular things. So basically machine learning based approaches are mostly used for highlighting cases of fraud requiring human deliberation. Deep learning is trying to minimize these efforts by scaling efforts. So that is the very big difference. So when it comes to highlighting, it is about to convey only, whereas the deep learning thing will block such transaction. It will not allow certain things to happen. So that's how deep learning is having some kind of edge over the machine learning based approaches. So personalizations, again, an application of deep learning. So again, with respect to a person only. So as I just before I told, knowingly or unknowingly, everyone follows some kind of patterns. Whether it is about the amount withdrawal from ATM, or it is about purchase from a grocery shop, or it is about buying a T-shirt from a textiles shop, whatever it may be, there will be some kind of pattern being followed in that. So that is how, or that is where the personalization comes. So everyone want to have some kind of personalized experience with a human touch wherever they visit, whether it is a chatbot, whether it is about they are searching something on online shopping like Amazon, eBay, or Alibaba, so whatever it may be. So some kind of a personalized experience if they are going to have when it comes to the season, when it comes to the products they buy, when it comes to the discounts, all those things, some kind of personalization should be there. Because somebody will be only interested on some kind of product. So somebody may be very enthusiastic in buying only the branded items, whereas somebody's preference will be always the cost effective one. So they will be always looking for minimum price. So somebody may be in somewhere in the middle, so they may not go for a highly branded one, or they may not go for a very low price though. So they may be maintaining a kind of a gap between these two directions. So based on the particular person, so if we are able to give some kind of empowerment to this particular system to show some kind of personalized products for personalized packages for some people, then definitely there will be an improvement of business for the service provider, and there will be a satisfaction for the customer at the end of the day. So it will be a win-win situation for both. So another application about deep learning is colorization of black and white images. That is again something which is coming up because we have a lot of photographs in black and white, and it requires a lot of human efforts to colorize that. So when we are able to automate this particular process, again, so obviously on the other side, people will lose their job. People who are actually exclusively working for that will lose their revenue. That is the other side of AI or machine learning or deep learning. On the other side, from a computing perspective, we would always say that human efforts are saved. So that is how we would be speaking in that particular case. So that is how this world is functioning. So we will be also part of this particular world. So I would be also saying that human efforts and human time is highly saved when we are able to automate this particular process. So image colorization, basically a process of taking grayscale images as input and then producing a colorized images that represents the semantic colors and tones of the input. So this process was conventionally done by hand, with human effort, considering the difficulty of the task. So we are introducing deep learning technology today, and it is now applied to objects and their context within the particular photograph. So in order to color the image, just as human operators approach, so we will be doing that. So this approach involves the use of high quality convolutional neural network, that is CNN, in supervised layers that recreate the image with the addition of color. So that's how we will be able to do this kind of process. So that is another application of deep learning that is being used in the recent times. So adding sounds to silent movies, again, for low budget movies or web series and all those things, people are coming with short film and all those things. It may be a good news for them. They need not pay for a music director because it is possible to add sounds to silent movies. Again, if you are going to have a properly trained model. So there was a model that is being developed with the help of LSTM based recurrent neural network for synthesizing sounds to match the silent videos. So for that, they have taken off pre-recorded sounds from the video frames, and there was about training of 1,000 videos where they have taken the drumstick sound. So it's about only the people play the drums with the sticks on different surfaces and create different sounds. So when we give all these sounds as an input, so we will not have any idea at all that what will be the new sound is being generated from this. So that is something we will see that there will be any repetition of music. So there will be a new music which is going to be the combination of all those trained videos which is being given as a training purpose. So from that particular sound is being generated. So that's how will be able to addressed in this particular case. So these videos are then used by the deep learning models to predict the best suited sound in the video. So we have a silent video, so there will be a kind of matching. So what will be the matching? There will be a video on another side as a training for the training purpose, and there will be a sound also on the other side for the purpose of training. So there will be a kind of matching, and there will be a generation of new video from this. So there will be a process of rechecking and all those things, but still this is another upcoming application which may come out with a lot of new inputs to the field of filmmaking. Maybe for the small scale filmmakers, this may be benefit for them. On the other side, it will be a problem for the people who are working in the music industry. So automatic handwriting recognition is another area which has a lot of benefits. So it's not about a recognition of the normal handwriting things. We have applications across various domains. So what are all the challenges? Huge variability and ambiguity of strokes from person to person. So handwriting will differ. Again, the same person will write in different way at different time. And the poor quality of source document, because we don't have that much document which is available for training a particular system. And there is a difference between typing and writing. So while we type, everything will be in the straight line, but when we write, most people will not write with the straight lines. So that is again making a problem for this particular system. But where it works, basically healthcare and pharmaceuticals, because we will not be able to understand what a doctor writes, but a medical shop person can understand. But if the trend changes, doctor will not change, but medical professional changes who also requires a proper writing, then this may work. And in the field of banking and insurance sectors, it will be very much working. For example, in the example I have shown that how it is from Indonesia. Somebody filled the details in a check or demand draft. I'm not very sure about that because it is not written in English. But if there is a automated things, because so far manually this is all processed, but when there is going to be an automated thing, every details of a check or a demand draft and all those things that needs to be properly kept. So as far as the checks are concerned, definitely it is written by the human being, so that needs to be properly analyzed. So for these purposes, this handwriting generation is going to be something very important as far as automating these banks from limited human resources. So for this particular purpose, earlier we had this hidden Markov models with support machines were used, but in recent days we have again adapted to the deep learning based approaches, which has tremendous improvements in terms of accuracy of handwriting recognition when compared to the traditional machine learning models. So that's how deep learning based approaches performs better when compared to the previous algorithms. So, so many algorithms are used like RNN and LSTM. There is a proposal of MD-LSTM for a different language that was proposed when compared to the, so MD-LSTM is multi-dimensional LSTM. That's what it is being represented here. So there is a technique, recently introducing technique, which is performing better as far as this handwriting recognition is concerned. So pixel restoration is another advantage or application of or impact of the deep learning based approaches that are concerned. So only in 2017, Google Brain researchers trained a deep learning framework to take care of very low resolution images of faces and predict the person's face through it. So it is a kind of a restoration because earlier days we have used low resolution cameras which might have taken, especially the mobile phones, the pictures were taken because when the cameras were introduced in mobile phone, the supported pixel size was about 0.2 megapixel, 0.3 megapixel, like that. So now we are in the advanced stage of hundreds of pixel sensors have come in recent days. So such kind of pictures, when we want to restore it and when we want to analyze those pictures, so definitely we require the help of computing, and deep learning came into play again for this particular purpose. So where we will be performing one way is to pixel by pixel and another way is to perform with the help of deep learning. So this is the particular example. So there was an input of 8 cross 8. The ground truth is the actual image, whereas the generated image after restoration is close to that. So definitely we cannot make it 100%. similar to what was the original face, but some kind of pixel restoration is possible, which may be close to the original one, may not be very close to the original. In some cases, that may also possible. So photo descriptions, again, with respect to the Facebook and all the social media, which would be creating descriptions on our behalf. That is also another application of deep learning, which was benefited things. Demographic predictions also possible with the help of deep learning network. So if you have a video which was taken from anywhere, any foreign country, if you have cars and other things moving in that particular video, so we will be able to detect so many information with respect to cars, with respect to its make, model, body type and year. So with that, we will be able to predict which country it is, and most importantly in that particular, because it will be very easy with respect to country, even the region, because number plate we will be able to do that. Again, location also we will be able to do it at which particular location it was done. So all those was done with respect to the demographic predictions. And deep dreaming is about another thing which is coming up. It was started in 2015. Slowly it is coming up. What kind of, from a particular picture, so what kind of, for example, Bahubali kind of things, when you want to dream something very big, if you look at a mountain or something like that, so we will be able to imagine, dream something like there is a big palace available in that, where Prabhas and Anushka is there, and all this kind of imaginations if you want to make as a creator. So deep dreaming is another approach that will be helpful, which was developed from in the researchers in University of Sussex. So such example is given. So from the picture you will be able to see from a very blank stones what could be imagined with the help of deep learning, which may be helpful for the creators who will be having a lot of creativity in doing the like this. So another important sector I just want to finish with is healthcare. So healthcare is another very important sector which is highly benefited from deep learning, because healthcare is having applications across all the directions. So deep learning is basically assisting medical professionals and researchers to discover the hidden opportunities in data and to serve the healthcare industry better. So we want to always better our healthcare industry. So especially in the pandemic time, we realized that how important this particular sector is, and how fastly we have to process data. So we need not wait for days of time to know our results. We need not wait for days of time to treat a patient, because every passing second is important as far as the health is concerned. So in this particular way, NVIDIA, so everyone knows that it's a giant as far as the particular industries are concerned, has defined that from medical imaging to analyzing genomes to discovering new drugs, the entire healthcare industry is in a state of transformation, and GPU computing is at the heart. So we have to understand the statement from NVIDIA that how important GPU computing and deep learning is for running a healthcare industry in terms of transforming it into a better position. So healthcare applications like drug discovery, medical imaging, insurance fraud detection, as far as the healthcare industry is concerned, Alzheimer's disease early prediction, genomics, so many applications are there. So if we look it into, in the interest of time, let me go a little fast. Drug discovery is something very important. So again, I need not reiterate the importance, because now we are in a thirst of solving the COVID problem, because it is going beyond everyone threshold. So we are looking for new drugs, we are looking for new medicines, we are looking for a lot of solving solutions that we are running out of time to solve all those things. So in that particular perspective, so we have to understand that the application of deep learning in drug discovery in 3 different categories, like for drug properties prediction, drug design, as well as drug target interaction prediction. So all these are a key aspect as far as the drug discovery is concerned. And what is something a very big drawback is it's a very time consuming process. Drug discovery will not happen overnight, or will not happen in a definite time. It will take indefinite time to perform all those things. So deep learning is going to, or it is not going to, it is making already this particular process. It is simplifying that in many particular ways. So, for example, drug property prediction, if you look at it, can be framed as a supervised learning problem. The input to the algorithm is the drug compound. So, we will be giving that, and output is going to be the property of the drug. For example, drug toxicity or solubility. So a drug, small molecule details we will be giving as an input for the particular system, whereas 0 to 1 label we will be getting as an output to indicate whether a drug has certain properties or not. So it can also be framed as a multi-label classification task also. That way also it can be done. So as far as drug design is concerned, it is observed as a discriminant algorithm where we will be given with a drug. The algorithm can predict the side effect and other associated properties, or given compound protein pairs, it will forecast whether they can bind or not. So with all these information, the system will be in a position to say that, and based on that there will be a further progress or there will be a redesign. So if we are interested in designing a compound that has certain properties, for example, if you want to design a compound that can bind to a particular protein, so modify some pathways and does not interact with other pathways, and also have some physical property like the specific range of solubility. So all these kind of interactions with respect to the drug design process are possible with respect to that. And what makes this is possible is the generative models from the autoregressive algorithm, which normalizing the flows on various autoencoders, and generative adversarial networks have become pervasive and widespread in the deep learning community. So this is how we will be able to have a generative models to handle this. And the third property is drug target interaction. So what exactly this drug target interaction is? Computational drug discovery. So that's what we are discussing here. He is predicting whether a particular drug can bind to particular proteins or not. So that is what we are supposed to find it out. This is what we are calling it as a drug target interaction. So most of the deep learning frameworks for DTA prediction take both compound and protein information as the input, but the difference is what representation they are using to feed to the neural networks. So that's why it will be able to do it. That's what about the drug discovery. Other are major, so 75-80% beneficiary of healthcare industry is medical imaging. So when it comes to medical imaging, so there are various images are available like X-ray, fluoroscopy, MRI, ultrasonography or ultrasound, endoscopy, elastography, or medical photography, nuclear medicine, functional images. So many images that are available in the healthcare industry, and that is to be processed in an appropriate way. So one key task of radiologist is an appropriate differential diagnosis for each patient's medical images. And this classification task includes a wide range of applications, from determining the presence or absence of a particular disease to identify the type of malignancy. So deep neural network, especially convolution neural networks, have improved this imaging-based classification performance in various medical applications, including the diagnosis of tuberculosis, diabetic retinopathy, or skin cancer. So it cuts across all kind of problems that the medical industry deals with. So since medical images contain various sizes and types of complex disease patterns, it will be very difficult for the CNN models to directly train complicated disease patterns. So these complex problems could be solved by some kind of advanced approaches like curriculum, learning strategy, and all those things will be really helpful in solving all this. So apart from that, the object detection is another thing that we will be in a position to handle with respect to that. So with respect to the patient's lesions, we will be doing it with respect to two types. One is the region, the proposal based algorithms, which extracts various type of patches using selective search algorithms in the input images. Then the trained model decides whether the multiple object exist in each patch and classifies objects based on the region of interest. So that's how in two types it will be able to do that. So image segmentation and registration is also another application with respect to medical imaging, which provide a lot of information on automatic segmentation and registration algorithms which are being proposed under the clinical settings. So image generation is also another case, because whereas we may not have access to so many confidential images with respect to a very important diseases, and such cases we will be in a position to generate the image also to solve certain things. For example, GAN is very much helpful. So if we have a very limited resources, very limited number of images, for example, say 50 or 70, but if you have some 1,000 images, we will be able to solve a particular problem in appropriate way. Then we will be going for such kind of image generation. So image transformation like pixel to pixel or cycle GAN is also possible with respect to the image transformation is also an application of healthcare industry. And insurance fraud, as already we have discussed with respect to fraudulent transactions. So this is about with respect to healthcare industry on insurance claims with respect to disease and all those things, wherein which when we apply deep learning based approaches like deep anomaly detection, so we will be able to identify that. So that was about all kind of insurance. This is about only a medical insurance. So Alzheimer's disease is another problem which is slowly gaining the attention of the medical practitioners, because the number of cases are increasing. So it is possible to detect such kind of disease at the earlier stage, and we will be able to treat it. Such kind of neuroimaging techniques also emerging, which will be basically a large scale multimodal neuroimaging data are available, which will be handled with the help of convolution neural networks, which will be able to perform this task, and which will be able to outperform also the other techniques on handling this. So apart from that, some of the path breaking medical imaging outcomes we have got in the past, like pneumonia detection on chest x-rays with the help of deep learning in the year of 2017, or skin cancer with the deep neural networks in 2017, as well as the arrhythmia detection with respect to heart diseases also happened with the help of convolution neural networks, and we have obtained the expected results or maximum accuracy we were able to achieve on all these results as far as the deep learning approaches are being used. So before I conclude, I just want to show some of the works what we have done with respect to deep learning. So one such is last year we have the access to CT images of lung infections, and from that we were in a position to develop a hybrid approach for automatic classification of COVID-19. So that we have done with the help of a combination of different networks like CNN, GAN, and UNet generator. So we have got some appropriate results for that particular purpose. So we were able to achieve about 81% with respect to our approach. And other approach what we have methodology or research work what we have done was facial expression recognition. based on the phase reaction. So we have made some 7 classes from anger to surprise. So we were able to define a methodology to outperform some of the existing approaches, and we were able to achieve almost 97% of results as far as the face expression recognition. So in other application, like we have even taken a neonatal cry classification. Basically it is an audio file, so 10 seconds recording of infants. Basically between 1 to 10 days we have collected the audio samples of crying patterns, and based on that we have designed a deep learning based model for classifying the cry either based on hunger, pain or sleepy. So like that, a kind of classification we were able to do with the help of a deep learning based model. So these are all some of the research papers we have published in the past with related to deep neural networks in different things. So as I have shown, we have applied on different applications like image processing to healthcare industry to infantry analysis to agriculture. So in different applications we have used. So as I have mentioned that deep learning has application across various domains. So this is where I just want to stop because the time is already crossed 1:30. So I would like to thank all the listeners patiently who are listening my session, and I just want to hear from you. So if you want to clarify anything on my presentation. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Thomas sir. Professors, if you have any doubts, you can clarify. You can unmute or you can post it in the chat box, professors, if you have any doubts. So sir gave a very good overview regarding the impact of deep learning and so many applications of deep learning. So how the some neural networks and CNN and RNN has been used in our day-to-day applications. I think online references. So, okay. They like to have the online references. It has been posted in the chat box.
So online references, basically we can read research papers which are published relevant to the application with which we want to work with, because recent days anyone can write anything. But if you read a proper research paper from reputed publishers like IEEE or Springer or elsewhere, or many reputed publishers are there. So if you read those papers, you will get more idea on where we want to work and what is the research gap we have, and all those things we can understand.
Any other clarification, professors? Okay, fine. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving a very informative session. I hope the session was only 1.5 hours, so you couldn't cover much of the applications, but you gave the overview of all these applications so that it will be useful for them to research on any particular topic and go further. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you all the organizers who are giving me a wonderful opportunity for this particular interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, participants. Thank you, sir.